On November 24th, 1971, what seemed like an ordinary flight began in the United States. A middle-aged man arrived at Portland International Airport and purchased a one-way ticket to Seattle. The name on the ticket was Dan Cooper. The man appeared completely ordinary. He wore a dark business suit, a white shirt, and carried a black briefcase. No one who saw him could have imagined that within a few hours he would become the center of one of the most famous unsolved crimes in history. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper handed a small note to a flight attendant. At first, she paid little attention to it. She assumed it was simply another passenger trying to get her attention. But Cooper quietly leaned toward her and told her that she should read the note. The message was alarming. Cooper claimed that he had a bomb inside his briefcase. When the flight attendant sat beside him, Cooper opened the case. Inside were wires, batteries, and red cylinders. Whether it was a real bomb has never been confirmed, but at that moment, it looked convincing enough. Remaining remarkably calm, Cooper explained his demands: $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck waiting at Seattle Airport. Authorities decided to cooperate rather than risk the safety of the passengers. When the aircraft landed in Seattle, the ransom money and parachutes were delivered. After receiving them, Cooper allowed all passengers to leave safely. At that point, the ordeal seemed to be over, but Cooper's real plan was only beginning. After refueling, the aircraft took off once again. This time, only Cooper and a small crew remained on board. He instructed the pilots to fly south. He also demanded that the aircraft maintain a relatively low altitude and a slower speed. Most unusual of all, he requested that the rear staircase remain accessible during the flight. Outside, the weather was deteriorating. Night had fallen. Heavy rain covered the sky. Powerful winds shook the aircraft. Beneath them stretched miles of dense forest and rugged wilderness. At approximately 8:13 p.m., the crew noticed a sudden change in cabin pressure. Something had happened. Moments later, they realized the truth. D.B. Cooper was no longer on the aircraft. Investigators believed that Cooper jumped from the plane carrying the ransom money and using one of the parachutes. The conditions below were extremely dangerous. The temperature was freezing. The night was completely dark. Dense forests and rough terrain covered the ground below. Many believed that surviving such a jump would have been nearly impossible. Yet there was one problem. No body was ever found, nor was any evidence discovered that could definitively prove what happened to Cooper. It was as if he had vanished into the darkness. Following the hijacking, the FBI launched one of the largest investigations in its history. Thousands of individuals were examined. Hundreds of suspects were investigated. Countless tips were followed over the years, but no definitive answers emerged. The identity of D.B. Cooper remained unknown. As the investigation continued, the mystery only deepened. By the end of the 1970s, many believed the case would never produce another lead. Then, in 1980, an unexpected discovery changed everything. An 8-year-old boy was playing along the banks of the Columbia River when he uncovered several bundles of cash buried in the sand. Investigators soon confirmed that the serial numbers matched the ransom money given to Cooper. It was the first physical evidence ever recovered from the case. But instead of providing answers, it created even more questions. How had the money ended up there? Had Cooper survived? Or had he died during the jump, leaving the money to be scattered and discovered years later? No one could say for certain. Over the decades, countless theories have emerged. Some believe Cooper died the night he jumped. Others argue that he was an experienced parachutist or former military operative who successfully escaped. A few even believe he lived out the rest of his life under a different identity. Yet despite decades of investigation, no suspect has ever been conclusively identified as D.B. Cooper. In 2016, the FBI officially suspended its active investigation, but the mystery was never truly closed. To this day, the D.B. Cooper case remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in modern history. What really happened on that stormy night? Who was D.B. Cooper? And perhaps the biggest question of all, did he survive the jump? Maybe the answer is still hidden somewhere within the dark forests of the Pacific Northwest.